All right, Aries, welcome to your weekly Sidereal astrology forecast for the 12th of October through the 18th. My name is Athen. So this is, of course, for Sidereal astrology. If you're new to this type of astrology, do check the description down below because your sign might be different. All right, Aries, so it looks like quite the week, actually, as it has been these past couple months with all this transformational energy, but there's a lot of support coming in this week, much less challenging than the past. I would say 6 weeks have been with these eclipses and everything, and there's a lot of support. There's a lot of opening, and you can see that from the blue energies. There's always challenging aspects, which I'll talk about, but I would say the propensity is certainly towards the more supportive ones. So first things first is on Monday we have a new moon, and this is taking place in your 6th house, which has been a very active house for you. This is the house of work. It's the house of routine, of health regimens, of diet, the work environment, your crafts, your service work, things of this nature. So there's a new moon here, and this is both for the next 4 weeks of the lunar cycle and also for the next 6 months with the solar cycle. So setting intentions this early part of the week in regards to the work environment, new things shaping up, new things with that routine, that health, etc. And it's always a time of reflection. You know, the energies are the lowest during the new moon phase. And so as the week unfolds, you'll feel more of that energy. There will be more insight. And the key is to really just experiment with it as you have been with Mercury retrograde over here. Try different new things. Different perspective always goes a long way with the new moon. And the more adaptive you are, the more those new beginnings are allowed to, will be able to unfold for you. So that's the case. You know, this is the highlight. It's on Monday, and it's a subtle time period, and things are moving forward. Now, Mercury is gaining his direction. He's starting to move forward quite strongly as the week unfolds. He just went direct last weekend. So things relating to those 6th house matters, if you have been noticing them sort of on the back burner, or if you've been rethinking them or redoing them, this is when things start to move forward, and you can see how they're unfolding a little bit more in the external environment, and probably you have more energy, more mental energy to pursue more of those 6th house things. So that's the key, especially this early part of the week. What's really nice about it too is that Mercury is going to be sextiling up to Saturn. So that mental aptitude, that, those daily activities are very supportive when you are seeing things in the long term, the big picture, especially when you're really getting deep. Saturn's going into your 8th house. So the foundations of your life, whether it's in your work, your environment, or whatever, or with your relationships or with yourself, when you have the depth, when you have the vulnerability, the truth, the honesty, whatever it is, with yourself, with others, that you build a solid foundation with, these are the new beginnings that come from that. Saturn is what we build. It's the foundations in our life. And then so through those deeper energies of life, that's what's building the foundation. So in either case, very supportive sextile up to this whole Mercury energy. Mercury still over that north node too, so there's life path things unfolding this week, the earlier part, and that patient approach can go a long way, can be very productive as well. One thing dissipating on Monday I want to mention, I mentioned this last week and during the last weekend horoscope for everybody, the sun's opposing up to Uranus. So this will have happened Sunday night, so it's already dissipating. But the key is that this new moon is going to be opposing Uranus and squaring up to Pluto. So it can be a very constructive new moon, and it's all a matter of how we approach the situation. So my best advice is to be willing to change. Maybe there are some things on the structure, on the very foundation of whatever it is you're involved with in the work environment or in the daily sphere that, or with your health or old habits or whatever, that need to be restructured, removed, gotten rid of. That's what Pluto does. And then that will create the space for the new beginnings from that new moon. And the more open you are to change, the more open you are to restructuring even deep, unconscious psychological things from Uranus in that 12th house of yours, then that becomes that much more constructive. Now, the key is to balance. It's balancing the daily stuff with making sure you're getting enough meditative time, enough alone time, enough spiritual time, and really relaxing into the unknown because, this whole past eclipse energy was about the 12th house for you. So there's been a lot of this deeper spiritual energy at work about uncertainty, unknowing how things are unfolding. And with Uranus, it's about when we relax into that, there's freedom. There's a new take. There's actually excitement, to do these, to go about life in this way, serendipitous way. So these are the kinds of energies that can be very constructive during this new moon, and it'll of course be different for all of you, but that's the general gist. And I think the more open you are to change and the more open you are to going with the flow and getting that spiritual time, whether it's directly related or apart from that, having that balanced approach will make this a very constructive new moon for you. So that's mostly the early part of the week, these first few days really activating that new moon, Mercury sort of energy, and Mercury gaining momentum. Then things start to shift around Wednesday and Thursday to become, I would say, quite supportive. Mars is conjoining up to Jupiter here this later part of the week, which means that Jupiter's been squaring up to Pluto. So now Mars joins up to Jupiter, who's still going to be trining up to Pluto, and essentially this is your ruler. So this is your spirit. This is your liveliness. This is essentially everything that you feel like is unfolding for your future. You could be very optimistic about that. There could be philosophy. There could be new insight coming in this week. But whatever it is, if it's a new opportunity or just straight optimism and insight, it's very supportive to the life path. Pluto's been transiting your 9th house of life path, of spirituality, of how things unfold. And so there's change happening there, as there's been for many years. But now it can be very supportive. I think you're wanting change. I think by the end of the week, you're seeing the optimism, you're seeing the opportunities to express yourself. Again, this is all in the 5th house, so it's self-expression, it's creativity. It could have to do with romance, children, for those of you who have children in your life, entrepreneurship, anything that we create or we feel very passionate about in life. These are where, this is where the opportunities have been expanding. And for you, it's your ruler going over this position really activates that. So it's going to be different for all of you. Each of your charts are different. It depends on what's going on in that personal chart of yours. But in either case, at the very least, using that optimism in a way of making change along both your life path and the way you express yourself, the way you carry yourself, the way you assert yourself, and maybe even in the way you look at things, your spiritual perspective, your philosophical outlook on life, what's possible in life, all of that is expanding. And if we utilize it, then this trine becomes very constructive, just like all aspects, but it's easy. So we can sit back, it might feel good, or we can make use of it. And I really recommend making use of it, taking action, doing things. The lunar energy will have been built up by that time too. And so any new insights you do get about creativity and self-expression can be a very good way to work with the second half of the week. Now, the other thing too is that Venus is opposing up to Neptune. That's going to be Friday and Saturday. I would say this is the one challenging aspect to the week, at least the later part of the week. And this is this constant opposition we've had between your 5th house and the 11th house. Now, Venus is the last of the fast-moving planets, as you can see here, to pass over this point. And so now it's the same thing. In fact, this is the 3rd time this has already happened with Venus, because she's been retrograde over this position. It's uncertainty with relationships, and maybe even uncertainty with the financial or material aspects of life. But you know what? That can be a good thing. Neptune always shows us how great it is to be grateful. And with Venus, it's to be grateful for what we have with our relationships, to be grateful with what we have with the finances. And if you do get any visions, imaginations, or even fantasies with relationships or the financial stuff, keep both feet firmly on the ground, but utilize them. You know what I mean? Because there is this good energy. Neptune is about spiritual connection. It's about compassion. It's about everything that is perhaps romantic, everything that perhaps is, a vision, a future, an ideal with the finances or whatever. And that can become very constructive if it's done balanced. So watch any extremes with those areas of life the second half of the week. But if you do have those insights, you do have that imagination, it can become very constructive, especially because Mars is going to be conjoining up to Jupiter in that 5th house, really giving you that push and that energy to continue to move forward with those 5th house things. Again, creativity, romance, children, entrepreneurship, things of that nature. So Aries, the highlight, I feel like is really split up into 2 parts. The first half of the week is these new things beginning to unfold with the daily sphere, and then the second half with your self-expression. And and then the energy will start to build for next week. And one thing I want to say too, with Saturn, it's all about, with the shift, with Saturn going into Scorpio this month, it's all about building solid foundations with what's really meaningful, what's really true, and what's really deep and important for you in life, and building a foundation based on that. So Aries, have a great week. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.